Mark Rogers TV on college football, Auburn and Georgia. It's the South's oldest rivalry. It's been one of the best rivalries in college football throughout the years. Not necessarily in recent years. Georgia's dominated, winning 5 of 6, and in blowout fashion the past 2 years. 38-0 against that dismal Auburn team last season, and 45-7 2 years ago against a decent Tigers team. But this one should be closer and definitely more significant, because if Auburn wins out, they go to the SEC championship game. They've got fate in their hands. For Georgia, it's a little more complicated. They need some dominoes to fall, but they need to take care of business, starting with the Auburn Tigers Saturday night at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Let's size it up, Auburn and Georgia. Let's start with the Bulldogs offensively, and it starts with quarterback Aaron Murray, who is one of the more prolific passers in SEC history. And of note, he's now in the record books. Touchdown passes, all-time in the SEC, passed Danny Werfel last week against Appalachian State. That's going to be something he's going to cherish in years to come, but for right now, he's more concerned about the health of his offense, and he's feeling more comfortable because he's getting some of his playmakers back. Tight end Arthur Lynch will play on Saturday. He's coming back from a rib injury. Okay, you've got Chris Conley at wide receiver. He's still somewhat doubtful for the game on Saturday night, but his status has been upgraded at least. He's caught 30 passes this year. Most notably had a big game against LSU in that shootout win, 44-41, when he caught 2 TDs against the Tigers in Athens. And then you also have Michael Bennett, who will almost definitely play on Saturday night. Bennett's caught 24 this season. He had a big game against LSU as well. 2 touchdowns against the Tigers. Todd Gurley's health has been the main key to Georgia's resurgence in recent weeks. Of course, the Bulldogs were a preseason SEC and BCS contender. They fell off. They lost the 3 football games, but Gurley has come back in recent weeks and played really well. And he usually plays his best football against the best competition, going back to last year's SEC championship game against Alabama. Then he starts the opener against Clemson this year with 12 carries for 154 yards against a good South Carolina defense. Hit them up for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. Against LSU before he got hurt, 9 carries for 86. And then just a couple weeks ago against Florida, and I know the Gators are 4-5, but the personnel on defense is exceptional despite the injuries. He hit up the Gators for 187 total yards and a couple touchdowns in that game. So Gurley's running the football. The ankle's almost 100%. He's running very well, racking up yardage. That's bad news for Auburn, because although the Tigers are playing much better on defense this season, with pretty much the same personnel as last season, which was disastrous, 97th in the nation against the run, 79th in scoring defense, they've improved so much. But they're still giving up yardage on the ground. In their one loss against LSU, Jeremy Hill went off, and so did the Tigers for 228 yards. Collins and Williams for Arkansas, despite no threat of passing the football, basically, they hit up the Tigers for 222 rushing yards. And also last week against Tennessee, despite the big win and despite Tennessee needing to throw the football down the field, trailing by 20, 30 points in the second half, Rajon Neal ran for 124 yards and 6.2 yards per carry. That's the Achilles heel of this Auburn football team, is rush defense. The defense has come along. It's so much better. Dee Ford is an exceptional playmaker at defensive end. He's missed 3 games, and he still has 10.5 tackles for loss and 7.5 sacks. Auburn, much better on defense, but not dominant, and certainly not dominant against the run. They're going to have to get much better, and it starts here against Mr. Todd Gurley. Okay, talking about Auburn on offense, let's talk about the running attack, because that's 90% of it right there. Nick Marshall, who played defensive back for Georgia in this rivalry game 2 years ago, now plays quarterback at Auburn, and he is the top rushing quarterback in the SEC. Yeah, Johnny Manziel may be more dangerous, but this guy racks up more yardage, and he's depended upon in the running game. Again, number 1 in the SEC at quarterback, 700-plus yards and 7 rushing touchdowns. He only throws it 18 times per game. Most of those are not downfield. I caught the Tennessee game gun to gun. Marshall threw it 7 times, completed 3. Most of those slip screens, bubble screens, didn't throw it downfield. I will say that the one time he did throw it down the field, it was a beautiful dime down the right sideline for its 25-yard touchdown pass to get Auburn on the board. But that was it. He's had a shoulder injury. They do rely on the running game regardless of his health, but he has had a bum shoulder in recent weeks, and we got to suspect that it's not at full health because he's just not throwing the ball down the field. He did throw a long touchdown pass a couple weeks ago against Auburn, but that was just one of 2 passes he threw over the line of scrimmage. Again, only 9 attempts against Arkansas. So it's the ground game for Auburn. They've rushed for 33 touchdowns this year. That's second in the nation to Oregon and Baylor. Tre Mason, he's a stud at running back, 16th in the country in rushing at 1,050 yards. And they also have Cameron Artis-Payne, who chips in at 6.5 yards per carry and 5 touchdowns. He's rushed for almost 600 yards. So Auburn is one-dimensional. That doesn't bode well in this game and certainly in a couple weeks against Alabama. But for right now, it's the Bulldogs and the Tigers. The Georgia defense in staring down that Auburn rushing offense is 5th in the SEC, 9th in scoring defense in the SEC, but they are 4th against running teams. 126 yards given up per game on the ground by the Bulldogs. Their best players are freshman outside linebacker Leonard Floyd and defensive end Ray Drew, who get after the quarterback. But again, it's going to be the rush defense that will be key for the Bulldogs. I'm going to get you a prediction on this game later in the week when we do our weekly predictions. I'm still mulling this one over. Tigers and Bulldogs, again, we'll get you a pick. But now we need to hear from you, SEC fans, on a very pivotal game in this SEC race, especially in the Western Division with Auburn, trying to complete the Cinderella season and get the win against Georgia. Then it's the Iron Bowl. Talk to us on Mark Rogers TV.